Hello, Taylor Ellwood here, and today we are doing this video a little bit earlier than I normally do because I've got stuff going on, and so welcome to my live stream on here, which is normally done much later in the day um, on Thursdays. But here you go. So today, what I want to do is I want to talk with you about perception and awareness magic. This was a topic suggested by one of the people in the Magical Experiments group, Isaac. So thank you, Isaac, for that. And really, in this case, I'm going to be talking about perception and awareness from a couple of different places or perspectives in this particular thing. I'm going to check very quick to see if I've got any questions on the posts that I have. But when I talk about perception and awareness, what I'm really talking about, on the one hand, is perception in relationship to your physical environment around you, and your awareness of that environment. On the other hand, it's also talking about spiritual perception and your awareness of opportunities and everything else that you might think of along those lines. So that's kind of where we're going to be focusing on today. I don't have any questions, it looks like, so I'm just going to go right into it. So when I think about perception, I do think about perception as a multi-layered thing. I mean, on the one hand, I do think of perception in relationship to the experience of our senses. You know, what do I see? What do I hear? What do I feel? What do I taste? What do I smell? Right. So all of those things are part of our perception. And so there's that aspect to it. But a lot of times when people think of perception in relationship to that, they're very limited because they are focused on the five senses and they're not necessarily paying attention to another sense, such as intuition, or to the kinesthetic awareness of their body. And so when I think of perception in that relationship, I think that it's important to also throw those in. And then I think of perception in relationship to awareness of opportunities and possibilities and things along those lines. Like, you know, are we aware of things that are around us that are happening that we could take advantage of, or that we need to be aware of because, well, we're possibly in danger, or something else along those lines. And of course, intuition helps with that. So when I approach magic from that perspective, I really look at it in those two different veins. And I mean, you could see them as one and the same in some ways. They certainly are, but I think in some ways they aren't. I think that when we think about perception on a physical level, a lot of times people are very much tuned out of their physical awareness. You know, a good way to know that is think about the last time that you really savored taking a deep breath, or that you savored walking outside and looking around and soaking everything in with your senses, or even in your own home. You know, when is the last time that you really paid attention to what the physical environment was like around you? If your answer is probably going to be you've taken it for granted, because that's just the normal thing for most people to do. I find this to be the case too, because people try to in some ways avoid being aware of their physical senses as much as possible. They're all cerebral up here, you know, and I get it, but I don't recommend it. I actually think it's very important to be aware of your bodily senses and what they tell you. As a result, I pay very close attention to what I smell, what I see, what I hear, all those other things on a regular basis. And I try to check in with my senses throughout the day, because I find that when I do, it helps me to be more aware of things that are going on around me, but also within me. For example, something that you may not know about me is that I have not been sick in a very long time. Like, I've literally not had a fever since probably 2010 or anything else along those lines. Well, why is that? Part of it is, of course, good lifestyle, right? Exercising, meditating, all that other stuff. But a lot of it really has to do with my perceptions of my body and my awareness of myself. By paying attention to my senses, what I've been able to do is really connect with those those points in time where my body starts to not feel well, and then I take corrective action. For example, if I'm using the restroom, I make it a point to smell what it is that's happening. Now, some people will be like, ew, why would you want to smell, yourself defecating and all that other stuff? And the answer is because when you pay attention to what the smells that are coming out of your body, you discover very quickly whether or not you're healthy. You know the difference between a healthy smell and an unhealthy smell. So that may seem odd, but I recommend doing it because it's actually very helpful for maintaining your health. Besides that, I just pay very close attention to the way that my body is feeling throughout the day. And if I'm not feeling well, then I'll get some rest or I'll do other things. Taking a proactive approach to what your senses tell you can help you avoid getting sick because you're paying attention to the way that your body is changing throughout the day. You're paying attention to what's going on. So that's an example right there of why we should pay attention to our physical perceptions. Beyond that, I find that just being very in touch with the physical environment around me does teach me to be in touch with the overall world. By going out there and really savoring an experience of the wind on my body, or looking around and soaking in the sight of nature, or paying attention in my environment, like really appreciating the texture of my cat as I'm petting it, is a good example of, again, really being in touch with what your physical sensations tell you. It's something that also teaches you to be more aware of what's happening around you in ways that may be very subtle. When you're not blocking out your senses, you can pay attention and you can recognize things that are happening around you that you want to pay attention to. For example, when I'm at work, I'm listening very intently around me, not just to the customer that I'm talking with on the phone, but to what people are saying around me. And a lot of times that gives me ideas and solutions to problems that I'm trying to solve, just by paying attention to what I'm hearing around me, not blocking everything out. And it's true with other things. Like, if I'm paying attention to my sense of touch and my awareness of that, I'm able to, pay attention to how something feels and what it can tell me. So these are things to think about and consider. Now then, you say, okay, well, that's great, Taylor. All well and good. I can do that. But what does that have to do with magic? What does that have to do with being aware of opportunities and things like that? Well, I'll tell you this. Just by being more aware of your environment around you, you will also discover more opportunities around you, because you'll start paying attention to little things that you didn't notice before, and it'll allow you to hone in on those details and start utilizing them to discover opportunities, to take advantage of things that are around you that you wouldn't otherwise notice. But all that said, let's get to the magical aspect of this, because it is important. One of the first magical entities, in fact, the very first magical entity I created, was an entity called Sarantis. And the purpose of Sarantis was to help me become aware of the opportunities that I wouldn't have otherwise been aware of. The reason I did this is because I realized that, in the everyday living of your life, it is very easy to block things out. I mean, you get caught up in your life, you deal with your problems, you deal with the other things, and as a result, you maybe find out about something after the fact, and you're like, man, I really wish I hadn't missed out on it. Well, back in my early 20s, I made it a point to make sure I wouldn't miss out on opportunities by creating an entity for the purposes of helping me become aware of opportunities. And that's all he does. All he does is go out there and basically pay attention to what's happening around me and in my life, and then he makes me aware of opportunities. I can't tell you the number of times over the years I felt an intuitive little ping that said, look into this, look into that, try this, try that. What I can tell you is that as a result, I've had a lot of amazing experiences over the years that I probably would have missed out on otherwise because I was too busy living my life. I can't say that I always automatically follow up on that. I don't. I leave it up to me. I mean, his role is to be an observer, to be aware of what's going on around me, and to help me become aware of those things. That's it. That's all Sarantis does. He doesn't cause me to act on those possibilities. I'm the one who has to decide if I'm going to. But by making me aware of those possibilities, it helps me to really uncover what I can do and how I can discover what I can do with those possibilities and how I can discover, the next great thing in my life. As a result, I've been able to make some changes in my life at different times where I might have missed out on opportunities because I was too caught up in whatever was going on at the time. So that's one way to improve your awareness of opportunities, is to create a magical entity for the specific purposes of making you aware of opportunities. And I highly recommend doing that because it's a very useful tool. The other thing that I do is I cultivate an open mind and I stay curious. I always want to be learning things. I'm always curious about what's going on around me and what I can learn. And try not to close myself off from anything that I could be doing. Naturally, by making a choice, you do close yourself off from certain things. Like if I choose to do X, I'm not going to be able to do Y at the time, but that doesn't mean I couldn't do Y down the line. I always keep that in mind. And so, I pursue a variety of different opportunities as and when it occurs to me. And I let my curiosity drive me. That's not magical per se, but it's something that I think people in short don't have enough of. They're not curious enough. They're not interested enough in discovering what's around them. They're not interested in being the fool, if we want to go into tarot parlance, And sometimes you need to be the fool. In fact, I happily identify with the energy of the fool, and here's why. The fool, at least in medieval courts, was the one person who could say things without any penalty, like to the king. Could say things to the king, and the king wasn't going to kill him. Well, not only that, but the fool is always off looking for adventure, always open to discovering the world, knows something that I hold to be very true. It's an axiom I have, which is challenge what you know with what you can learn, right? We all know things, and it's the knowing of things that cuts us off from opportunity and awareness. It is challenging what we know with what we can learn that allows us to discover those opportunities. Yes, I know something, but does that mean that it's automatically always going to be true, or that I shouldn't challenge it and find out if in fact it's still true? Well, in my mind, yes, it means I should challenge it on a regular basis. And so I do. I challenge what I know. And it's one of the reasons why I have a lot of the different experiences that I've had over the years. And I would urge you to take on a similar approach because it makes your life richer and happier. The other thing that you want to think about with being more aware of opportunities and perception is that you want to basically try and do some work around space-time magic, for example. So one of the things that I've done over the years is I've certainly worked with tarot, but I've also tried to have direct meditative states, where one example would be the state of stillness, where I'll cultivate a state of stillness and I'll get to the point where I'm still, and it allows me to open myself up to an awareness of possibilities and to start exploring those possibilities. That's another way that I uncover opportunities, ways that I discover things. And so trying to achieve a meditative state where you're just stilling your awareness of your everyday life and just coming into intimate awareness of possibilities can make a huge difference in what you see or what you discover around you. The best way to do that is to do this on a regular basis. Just try meditating. A simple way to do it is to focus on something else other than just yourself and be aware of it to the point that that's all you're doing. You're not thinking about it. You're not emoting about it. You're just being aware of it. And what you'll find is that in that awareness, your overall awareness shifts, and you start to come into touch with different possibilities that are out there. It's an amazing experience. I highly recommend it. Just meditate for like 5 minutes, just being aware, and you'll find that it shifts your awareness of awareness. All right, so that's it. Feel free to post questions if you want to after the fact, or you'll see this video on YouTube too at some point. And thank you very much for watching. Take care and have a great one.